How many times did you swipe the wrong way and you're like, oh shoot.
Man, yes.
Did you know on Bumble, I think you shake it and you can bring them back if you have swiped the wrong way?
I think that the way that app is because it's built for the female to be in control. I think maybe they have that ability.
Oh,
I don't.
okay.
Again, I was on the free version
too, but you could get so many free
I got what I paid
shakes.
for. I'm just teasing.
You're not cute. Not cute, Sargent. This is Sargent Squad. Welcome to episode 10.
We're putting that in.
No, we're not. All right, get it going. Get us rolling.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready for today?
Do a
because
pause.
today is all about you. All about Kristie.
Well, my life story isn't very exciting, so.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, everybody, welcome to another episode of Sargent Squared. I'm Scott.
And I'm Kristie.
And we're just here to talk about all things relationships. So today, we're going to actually be talking a little bit about our experience with dating, but actually how we got into dating with dating apps.
Why do you look at me like that when you say that?
You've got so much to talk about.
I do not have that much to talk about.
You do. But before we do, we had a listener reach out not too long ago and asked, hey, what are some of the resources or tools, or did you have books or something you can recommend that helped you when you went through, when you're going through divorce? And I actually have one that was really good and really helped me. It was called, the title of the book is Should I Stay or Should I Go? By the author was Lundy Bancroft. Now, it's not a paid promotion. I don't know the person. It's just a book that really helped me because it kind of took a diagnostic view. It helped me kind of step back emotionally and say, diagnostically go through whether the relationship was worth saving or not. And I don't know, it was really good. It just helped me.
Nice.
Really helped me to kind of step over the line. Maybe that's not right. Step across the line. So, anyway, so Mrs. Sargent, let's talk about dating.
Why are you so excited to talk about this?
I think because I just had some Mountain Dew. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew. I don't even drink Mountain Dew.
Oh.
But, yeah, so
the dating apps.
let's all things dating, putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
So I know we've been talking a lot about the divorce process, kind of a Debbie Downer. Not Debbie Downer, but it's just part of it.
Well, yeah,
right?
it sucks.
Is.
Divorce
It
sucks.
It sucks.
It's definitely
Sucks.
a downer.
Yeah. But yeah, at some point you had to get past it, and you're like, all right, now what? And we said we were going to talk a little about dating apps, but what?
Because that's how we met.
Well, I know that.
Most of our friends know that we met on Bumble. So.
But when you started talking about dating, I mean, was that the first thing that came to your mind? Oh, I need to go to a dating app.
Absolutely not. Not, how old was I? 41? Whenever, yeah. And so I didn't know how to meet people. I had been in this relationship for 24 years since high school. And so I asked my girlfriends at work, I'm like, how do you do this? How do you meet people now? And this one particular girl that was single said, online. Everything's online now. And for me, I was like, what? It felt kind of scary and skeevy, is your favorite word. But I went for it, and which is not like me. I don't like to put myself out there. I don't like to be in the spotlight. This is very uncomfortable for me, but I do lots of things. Oh, hold on, that doesn't sound right.
We're going to get into that, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't always do everything you want, but
I just love listening to you talk.
Anyway, look, now you got me off my train of thought. So she said everything's online now. And she told me an app that she used, and that was the only one that I got on to give it a try, and which it was a really big leap for me to put myself out there like that. But I wanted to meet someone, so I did it. What about you? What led you to the dating apps?
I just think, like online. You buy your clothes online, you can buy your food online, you get just about everything done online.
Oh, Lord, Sargent's shopping again.
I'll talk about that in a minute. But, dating apps were the last thing on my mind as far as like a
but
tool.
You had tried the traditional way. Initially, you met people you knew that were single or introductions and stuff?
Yeah, I don't even know. I wasn't even really like, I tried. It's just like, maybe because I'm a relational person, I connect. Just natural, whether you meet somebody in the grocery store or
Oh, Lord, we know about you talking to the 80-year-old women in the lettuce section about
you
exchanging
meet some really
recipes.
nice people in the grocery store.
As I linger on by trying to get out of there.
Right. Yeah, but you just meet people through walks of life or people. But it was interesting because I had moved here to this state when I didn't know anybody.
Right. So you're kind of, that's
Yeah.
really your only option.
Yes. And so, well, what are the options? So the options were go to the bars.
Yeah. Not so
Yeah, I
much,
mean, that's
but
percentage of
not in
success
here.
percentages. Nah, that's not even me. So, I'm not saying that people haven't met their soulmate in a bar or
Oh,
tavern.
yeah, I'm not down in it. I'm just saying, like, at our age, in your
age.
early 40s, late 40s at the time.
Yeah.
That wasn't somewhere I wanted to go hang out because it's like
No.
a younger crowd. Plus, I'm tired at 9:30, so that's kind of
Well, yeah.
when all that begins.
Right. And then moving here, when I'm going to go to the bar by myself and sit there, look like a creeper.
Yeah, that
I
would
was
look like a creeper.
"Man, I'm not going to do that. So, yeah. So it was, and then so it was working, but it was a good buddy of mine said, "Don't get your honey where you get your money." So I wasn't.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't going to date anybody that I worked with. So then, right to your point, it's like, all right, well, how do you meet people?
So now you tried a few more besides just Bumble, right? Which I honestly, in depth,
I gave them all a run.
don't know what all's out there. I was cheap. I just did the free version of Bumble, and I liked that one because it was kind of put the woman in the driver's seat per se. You couldn't just have all these random like messages sent to you. You had to like open the door first through the message. They weren't allowed to message you until you messaged them first, which I'm sure you found out very quickly once you got on Bumble.
Haven't you always heard you get what you pay for?
Well, I found you free, so what are you
saying? That's a good point. Yeah, dating apps were. I felt they were awkward because I had a preconceived notion. Never had used them. Obviously, they didn't have them back when I was old enough to start dating, and then certainly 20-some years in marriage.
TV was still in black and white, wasn't it?
TV wasn't even out. Silent picture shows, right? Yeah, they weren't out. So I always had this like preconceived notion that they were skeevy, like they were dark chat rooms.
So that actually for you felt like you were putting yourself out there more just because you were used to connecting with people the traditional way. So you kind of stepped out of your box and got online and.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And I've told you this before. Like dating apps to me felt like I was shopping for people.
Well, I mean, you kind of are. You're swiping left or right off of just a little bit of information you're given in a picture. So, I mean, it feels superficial,
right?
For sure.
And I know that, like you said, in today's world, that's just, that's the norm, right? And it's been that way for a while. But to your point, there's a lot of people like you and I, in the age of life that we're in, that's not normal, right?
Right. But then again, how do you meet people? I felt like in our age range, most of the people I knew were married and had a family. So it's kind of like you're out there on this little deserted island. And so that was the only way I knew to kind of reach out, expand beyond my small circle, which was nobody I was interested in, or they were married, Yeah.
I think there can be this whole psychological piece to using an app. Aside the fact that, that's where it is a good resource because more and more people are using them. But again, and I think a lot of people take it for granted. And like my kids, I still have one child that's still single, and that's just one of the ways that they use to meet people. But again, for maybe somebody in our age group or older, it can be a scary thing, and because they're not. And I'm not talking about the technological piece of it. It's just
it's so foreign
Yeah.
from how we were raised and what we were used to seeing and how people met. And I think sometimes older people, well, like me, even one of my friends, she was like, I don't want you to wind up dead in a ditch. You
Right.
have that fear, and you do have to be safe and be careful. But we would have never met had it not been for that app. So I'm like very
Right.
grateful.
Yeah, and then I don't want to make any preconceived assumptions. I definitely think that the experience is different for men than it is for women.
Unless you get catfished, which Scott has a great catfish story.
I don't know if it's a great story, but it is.
We can save it for next time, though, when we actually get into like people that we dated.
Yeah.
Through this.
It's definitely a story. And I was like, anyway, I'll talk about it. But yeah, one of the downsides of using that.
Well, and then people can kind of represent themselves in a false way, behind a computer too. So you got to kind of watch out for that.
I don't know. I think that's they say the exception versus the rule. That seems to be, at least my experience. I ran into that all the time.
Oh, you did?
Oh my God, yeah.
See, I didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe it's these women that are trying to
right?
put on this false face to catch these men. I don't know, but
that's why I was so leery when
now,
I met you. I didn't know what I was getting into, but I'm getting ahead of myself. What were you gonna say?
You're fine.
No, what were you gonna say?
Well, you took my train of thought, which is pretty easy to do. But anyway, I did. I guess there were some on there, but I was able to somehow weed them out before actually like going out on a date with them. The people that I actually went out on a date with, I feel like I got really lucky. There were no crazy situations. Everyone was who they said they were, and met some really nice people. So I actually had a really good experience.
So yeah, back then, I don't even know what's out there now, but I think back then, what was the ones we had to choose from? The ones I had to choose from to use were Match, were Tinder. But I didn't find Bumble till right before I met you. What else was there?
Thanks to your daughter.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah,
because otherwise I wasn't on any of the other ones, and I probably
well, you
wouldn't
were on Farmers Only. I saw you on that one.
Oh, I wouldn't mind being married to a farmer.
There was eHarmony. So the big ones were Match, eHarmony, Bumble, Tinder, and then you had like what was that one that was for?
There's Our Time.
Our
for
Time.
like 50 and older. And
Yep. And so with each one of them, and I know we're not telling people a lot they don't know, but there was different expectations. Some of them, had to fill out this complete bio before you could actually make your profile go live.
Which your bio, I can't remember because my memory sucks. We all know that. But I remember it being really sweet and like it grabbed me for sure. You are pretty cute.
I ran it through ChatGPT.
Probably.
It didn't exist.
How long did it take you to write your bio? You're a perfectionist, so I feel like you probably wrote it over and over again.
There was a lot of revisions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you're fishing, right, you got to try different lures.
Oh, Lord.
No, but there was their whole bio. So you got to do the bio and you got to, pick the right photos. It just, I don't know, it just felt kind of like, I don't know if sterile is the right word.
We weren't used to it, and we didn't grow up in an age of the internet and in computers and stuff. Yeah. So it's very normal for younger people, but not for people our age.
But I will say that once all the setup was done, and got used to like how the platform worked. And
it's a lot of fun, isn't it?
And it was then you find yourself all of a sudden, oh my gosh, again, it's different because now you're not meeting someone, connecting with them. Like usually in the first 5 to 10 minutes, I can usually tell meeting somebody whether there's a mutual interest or I'm interested. I've heard it say before, like 60% of, I'm not sure if this statistic's right, but 60% of communication is nonverbal, body language. So you don't have that. So there's all these components that people don't think about when you're communicating. Forget the whole verbal conversation with intonation and inflection. But when you take that away, and all you have now is this a picture and to read somebody's paragraph.
You're in such a bigger pool now too, though. So I think you increase your odds.
Yeah.
Finding, I mean, of course you're going to go out and have some duds and this and that. And there was one situation where I had just connected with someone, just messaging through the app, and he was like, "Do you like baseball?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "We should go catch a game," or is that even? I don't even know if that's what they're called now, but the local Louisville team. Mm-hmm. And my friend was like, "Oh, let me see." I was like, "Oh, I met somebody. I think we're going to go see a baseball game this weekend or whatever." And she was like, "Oh, let me see his picture." Because, really all it said on there was like a first name, the picture, and then a bio if they wanted to put that. And I showed the picture and she was like, and I'm like, "What?" She was like, "I know him. He's married." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, and his wife is pregnant." Yeah. Wow. And so, we're still in the chat. He didn't have my real phone number. I didn't have his real phone number. And I texted, and I was like, "Oh, turns out we have a mutual friend. She knows your wife." Man. And all of a sudden, I see bubbles. Bubble, 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 bubble. And then nothing comes through. Bubble, 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 bubble. We're all waiting. This is on my lunch break at work. And, all the girls are huddled around waiting for this response.
He's like, "Shit."
And you could tell he wrote a few things and would erase. And then finally a response comes through. And I don't remember exactly what it said, but it was basically like, "Oh, well, we're separated." And I was so glad she looked at that picture and recognized this person. And because I said, "Well, sorry, I don't date married men, and you're technically still married."
Wow.
But yeah, that was probably.
And he just disappeared?
Well, then I ixnayed him to where he couldn't message me anymore. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have that because, like I said, it was in an area where I didn't know anybody, so everything was new, and it wasn't a lot of fun. I did talked with a lot of good people. You're right. There are some, certainly a number of folks out there that unfortunately misrepresent themselves or have a different agenda. I mean, I guess that's just.
Do you think that's part of the course? The minority, though, that the majority of people are really on there looking for a relationship or love?
Well, I mean, my data set is only my experience, and then talking with you or some others, I would say there were more like what I feel genuine people or authentic people who were being honest than there were people that were trying to.
I agree with
pull the wool over your eyes, but there were enough to make me want to pause and say, I was always just not trusting of it. My dad always used to say, "Don't listen to anything they." No, what do you say? Sorry, Dad.
You're getting my brain.
Don't believe anything you hear and half what you see, and so I think for me, I always, whenever I would open up an app, I was always on the defensive, or I was always, what's the word? Just cautious, and not very trusting, right? Yeah. But it was fun there, and and then all of a sudden it's funny because you start. Match is a little different. Match, I don't think there was a swipe.
The computer doesn't match you maybe with your interests and your.
Yeah. So you click through profiles, but it wasn't. There wasn't some of the apps where you swipe left or right. That was actually fun and more efficient. Right? You swipe up, and all of a sudden.
How many times did you swipe the wrong way and you're like, "Oh shoot."
Man, yes.
Did you know on Bumble, I think you shake it and you can bring them back if you have swiped the wrong way?
I think that the way that app is because it's built for the female to be in control. I think maybe they have that ability. I don't. Again, I was on the free. I was on the free
version
too.
But you could get so many free
I got what
shakes.
I paid for. I'm just teasing.
You're not cute. Not cute, Sargent.
But yeah.
No supper for you tonight. Oh, I don't cook anyway, so.
Yeah, can't take that away from me. But it was fun. Yeah. I talked to way more people than I actually met. Because it's easy. You connect. The app connects you, and you're having this whole conversation over text. The interesting, and then again we'll talk about it next time. But the very first person that I decided to meet the very first individual I decided to meet in person from the app was my catfish. And so all of a sudden,
in the Bumble app.
So I walked away like, this is exactly what I expected. This is just bullshit, and that's all that's on here is these kinds of people.
Well, there was one comment made to me on a guy that I went out on a date with, and when we first met, we drove separate because I wanted to have my own vehicle in case I had to make the escape, get away. But he said, "Oh, good, you look like your pictures." So I guess maybe, and women, even still to this day, you try to smooth your skin out a little bit and this and that.
I think that I think there's a lot of females out there that are very skilled in Photoshop or something because, it's crazy. So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the whole experience overall? Obviously it worked out well for you and I. I do want to talk about that a little bit before you go there. So I will talk about that app because that was an interesting story. So I got to know myself. So here I am. I've used. So I'm living in this town. Obviously we didn't know each other. I had met a few people. Great people, but no spark or interaction. And so I was actually down. I was on a trip and I was out of the state and I was down visiting my daughter who lives in another state for a celebration, and we're sitting around in her apartment with my niece and my nephew and his wife, and anyway they were just all together, and we got on the conversation about dating. And I was telling about my experience, and I know they were rolling their eyes thinking, this is like, get with the program. But they told me about this app. Say, you should try this new app that's out. The experience was a little bit different. They didn't really talk about the app, like performance, so much as it was just, hey, we know some people that use it and had a lot of luck meeting some really good people. Which
we got lucky because when I was looking later at Bumble, the age demographic on there is a lot younger than what we were.
Yeah, well, that would make sense. sense.
Yeah, and which, the person that referred me to it was younger.
Right.
Well, in her 20s, and then you as well, your nephew and your daughter in their 20s. But we didn't know.
No, we didn't know. So we were talking about it. I'm like, I've never heard of it. So they were like, give me your phone. So they gave me my phone, and they downloaded the app. Showed me how, told me a little bit about it. So I was sitting in the apartment that night, and I think I was leaving in a day or two to come back. Sitting there, and so I put a quick little bio on there with a couple pictures. Boom. I get this boom, I'm like, oh. So I met somebody like on that evening, sitting around talking with them. So the next morning we get up, my daughter's like, I was getting dressed. Where are you going? So I'm going to go down around the corner and have coffee.
Well, you didn't waste any time, did you?
These things are meant to use. So I went down, met this really great person, had coffee in the morning, and it was like, oh, that was a pretty good experience. And then learning that particular app uses your location. So wherever you're at, you can set the range, right? I think maybe the max was 25 or 30 miles from your GPS location.
I just know you could adjust it as far,
Yeah, I thought this is fantastic, right? Well, no matter where you're at, because at the time I traveled a lot for business, and be like, oh yeah, no matter where you're at, you can meet somebody. So, day or two later, I traveled back home and met a couple.
Love them and leave them, I guess.
Yeah. Met a few people, had a couple dates, and I was having a really good experience with this particular app, I guess. The people seemed nice. It just seemed, I don't know. My experience was it was cleaner. People were professional. It was a cleaner app.
Oh, okay.
It's just the way it worked.
What?
Right? So, and it wasn't like 2 weeks, maybe, not even 2 weeks, that I saw your profile come across. And it is interesting. It was, again, my whole life, you meet people and connect, and it was like almost impossible for me to feel like I had a connection with somebody not meeting them face to face. But I found your picture, and it was something that was just like, oh, stop, So obviously I swiped right. And with that app, there's no notification to the man until the woman
Yeah, I have to
accepts it,
swipe
or
you too, apparently,
Right.
before it like,
Mhm.
connects. At
And then
least
you
the
get-
free version.
right, and
that
then you
I
get
have.
notifications. So it wasn't immediately right away, but it was a day or two later, and I looked back, and there was a match. And I saw I kept going through your pictures because I'd already had this catfish experience. I'm like, oh man, I wonder.
Oh,
if
I'm sure you did a whole background check as soon as you got my full
Do you
name.
want to tell the story about the conversation I had before we met
I don't remember which conversation
about
you're talking about.
being a taller lady? Because
Okay,
you had these.
Well, we'll wrap it up with that,
All right,
and then
so,
we'll continue.
Yeah,
because
you had these really. You had some photos of you at a wedding with a couple of people.
So when I signed up, it pulled like pictures from your Facebook. It pulls from another social media to try to get people. Oh yeah, that'll be another story to tell. Get people from false identities and stuff, because there's a story where someone took one of my pictures off their Facebook page, an acquaintance, to try to catch her boyfriend. Anyway,
just tell that one real quick, because that's important for people to know that stuff happens.
Yeah. So this person later admitted to me, this was long after you and I had met. I was off Bumble. We were in a serious relationship, and she said to me, it was someone that I'd worked with a long time ago, and she said, I have a confession to make. We weren't like super close friends that talked all the time, but we had all gotten back together, a group of work friends, and gone to an event. And she's like, I hope you're not mad. She said, but I was seeing this guy that I had met online, and I wanted to see, I felt like he was still looking for women. She said, and so I got on my Facebook and picked out one of my pretty friends. So I picked out one of your pictures and I put it on there. She was like, but I didn't use your name. So in other words, she's putting my face on this dating app with a different name, all fake, to try to catfish her, see if he responds. Because, the thing would go to her, the notification.
Trying to lure in.
Yeah.
See if he was a cheetah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was very upset about that, because I was like, what if people were still on this app that I had dated in the past, and then they see my picture again with this other name? I don't know.
Or what if I had heard from somebody I worked with?
Right. Someone would have said, hey, Scott, your girlfriend's still on Bumble under this false name,
As new as we were, I'm not sure. That could have been a really difficult hurdle.
Yeah, it could have been. So, I was really upset about that. But she was like, you were on there less than a day. She was like, and he swiped you. So, her mission accomplished.
I get why he swiped you.
But anyway, so, yeah, you do have to be careful with that, for sure.
So, back to your...
I don't even remember what I was saying.
I was telling you
before.
that you look like a taller lady.
Oh, yes. So I get this message from you, or my pictures that were on there, some were pulled from a wedding that I'd been to recently, which I had on 3-inch heels. I'm already tall. I'm already 5'9", so that put me up to 6 foot, basically, in that picture. And so we're chatting back and forth, and I'm feeling the little butterflies just from talking to you, and it was a great, instant connection.
Now, I'm driving back from seeing family up in the state that I grew up in, and so it was like a 7-hour drive. So I had just windshield time. And
I hope you weren't texting driving.
No.
Terrible.
But it was just real quick, and we were able, I think I did shoot you a text, and you're like, hey, we can talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, but then you send me this message, and you said, not that it matters, but I was wondering how tall you are. You look kind of like a taller lady. And I had not even thought about height at this point from your end of the deal.
Look, in the picture that I was judging from, you look like you were 6'3".
And
I was like, hey, look, I'll go for it. I'm fine. But I'm like, yes, I'm 5'10". And I'm like,
my stomach sank when I got that text. I thought, oh no, this dude is like 5'3", and that is not going to work for me, because I like to feel like the woman in the relationship.
I figured if Mark Wahlberg could pull it off, I could pull it off.
So anyways, I text back begrudgingly, fearfully, 5'9".
And I was like, yes.
And it took me a while to get it back, because I think I was doing something in between the texting.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, oh no, I've
Yeah.
run her off. I done run her off.
But
girl.
I was still cautious, I thought, man, I hope this is like everything. I hope it is.
Well, you didn't let me finish my story.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So you text back that you were, so I'm like, well, how tall are you? And you said,
5'4".
I'm 5'10". So I was like, you just barely made the cut. Barely made the cut.
Yeah.
And I knew on our first date not to wear heels after that interaction.
Yeah. And I remember we went out, and we'll talk a little bit about dating, maybe next time actually dating. But I think, into our third date. 'Cause we dated a whole weekend. Went out Friday night,
Yeah.
Saturday night, and Sunday. And when we got back, and I was like, Mom, I'm gonna get off the dating. I want to see where this one goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were open and honest and like vulnerable and said, I like you. I only want to date you. I'm going to get off the app. And I love that. I was like, that's exactly what I want to. I really like you. Let's give this a go.
Yeah.
And we did. So we can talk about that next time, our actual different dating experiences.
So just to wrap up, like from a female perspective, well, like what would you tell your, well, I can't tell your daughter, but she's in a relationship, but what would you tell like a friend or somebody that said, hey, what would you tell yourself back when you were like thinking about putting yourself out there?
Just go for it and put yourself out there. It's scary and it's a little daunting, but
I mean specific to like using dating apps. Or is it, or just do it?
Just do it, yeah. Do you have any advice to those men that are looking for the love of their life? And
yeah, be honest. I mean, guys are getting a bad rap out there. A couple things, and that actually is interesting because I think a whole nother episode could just be on how to show up and how to meet, because it doesn't have to be. I mean, you get so many like bad pickup lines and bad ways to meet. Yeah. I'm talking about from a guy's perspective. We can talk about just what it means to just be yourself.
And be honest with what you're looking for, what you want to accomplish out of being on this app. Do you want the long time? Are you looking for the love, the one long time love of your life, or are you just looking for someone to hang out with on the weekends or this and that? Yes.
Yes. I think that's key. Just be honest. I think that I've had one thing to say. I'd say be honest, because people out there want that. It's already scary. It's already awkward. It's already uncomfortable. People out there. Most people out there are really just trying to meet somebody. Like you said, may not be for a long-term relationship. Maybe they want it to turn into that. Maybe they just want to meet someone to spend time with and to have company. Those are all legitimate needs. Those are all legitimate wants. Yeah. And we all have the personal responsibility to show up. So don't be a jerk. Like, don't put information down that isn't true. Be courteous. Be polite, and to your point, just say what you're out there. If you're just looking to date and have fun, that's okay. You'll meet those people. You'll connect with those people that are in the same place. If you want to, if you're looking for the long-term partner, say that too. And I don't know why, Kristie, but I feel like people have a really difficult time just being honest when it comes to using those apps, or presenting yourself on one of those platforms. Yeah. And I don't know why.
Yeah.
And maybe people feel like they wouldn't be accepted if they really knew. There's always a lot of things that people are dealing with personally. And I get it. They're real. But just trust the process. Be honest.
Yeah.
And you'll meet some really good people.
Yeah. Just do it. Just go for it.
Yeah. So
it's totally worth it.
Yeah. Good. Always good talking with you here. So, anything you want to tell the audience? No. We can always
come back for next time, and you'll hear Scott's true catfish story. And it wasn't me.
No, that's good. All right.
Love you.
Love you too.